Let's hear this story.
I don't know. You just pick out, because again, it only can last about an hour, the whole meeting.
Uh-huh.
But you and David and Clarissa, I think were our only kids then. We were coming back from one of my seminars in Provo, and we had gone through Page. It was late at night, probably close to midnight, and we had gone down toward what they call the Gap. There's a long thing coming off that mesa that you south of Page. And there's a long road that winds down. And then you get to the bottom, and there's actually, I think, a little town called the Gap down there. And we had gotten down to there, and we just had a straightaway ahead of us going to Flagstaff. The road's been widened since then, but then it was 2-lane road, one each way. And in a lot of places, you couldn't pull off the side because you'd take quite a drop. And I noticed the headlights of a car up ahead of us, probably a mile ahead. And I was watching it, and they turned the blinker on and pulled off to the right and stopped. And I didn't think anything of it. We had almost a mile, and I was going speed limit probably at least or more, 65 or 70. I think we were in an old Chevy Suburban.
Or a Travelall.
Or a Travelall, because we had both about that time, one at a time. And the closer I got, I started just getting a feeling I better watch it, but I didn't really slow down because he was well off the road. And he still had his headlights on, and I was sure he could see me coming. And so I was still probably going at least 60, 65. And just at the wrong time, we were right there. He flipped a U right in front of us and crossed both lanes. He had a big vehicle too, like a Suburban. And there he was, sitting across both lanes. I screamed, "Mom and you three kids," David and Bert and Clarissa were all asleep. But when I screamed, I woke everybody up. I just ducked my head because there was no way to avoid an absolute T-bone crash. I was going fast enough, and he just swung up there just right in front of me and stopped. I didn't have 10 feet to maneuver or anything, plus it was a 15-foot drop off this side anyway, but I couldn't have swung that way at all. I just screamed and ducked my head and waited for the impact. I knew there was going to be a horrible impact, and there wasn't. And I waited a second. I looked up and I looked in my rear view mirror. He's still sitting, straddling both lanes, sitting right there. I don't know how we missed him. We either went over him or under him or through him. But it was a miracle. It should have killed all of us and all whoever was in that vehicle. The impact would have killed the inhabitants of both cars, because I was going 65 probably. But There was no impact, and he was still sitting there. Mom said, "What happened? What are you doing?" You screamed. I said, "Because some guy pulled right in front of me, and he's still there. But we missed him. I don't know how." It was an act of God, in my opinion. I had a supervisor on that same highway, Glenn Van Wagenen. He was going the other way once, and he fell asleep at the wheel. And he drove clear off the road and sailed across a creek bed and slammed into a rock wall on the other side of the creek bed. But he said he woke up just as his vehicle started hitting rough stuff. He was sound asleep. And he woke up and he felt someone's arms around him, real tight, wrapped around his torso. And when his car hit that rock wall on the other side, he didn't go through the windshield and the engine didn't hit him. It totaled the car, but something held him in place and he survived it.
Huh. And that's back when people didn't wear seatbelts.
Yeah, yeah. But he had an angel holding on to him.
I vaguely recall you screaming from that car ride and waking up and going, "What is going on here?"
That's the only thing I had time to do was scream. It'd be interesting to see a replay of that and see exactly how the impact was totally avoided.
That would be fascinating.
Similar to the boulder that rolled down, was going to crush me coming home from Sipacue. Boulder bigger than the car I was driving. I heard a voice. I'm positive it was my dad's voice. He said, "LaRue, look up," just like my dad. It's exactly what he would have said. I looked up and the Prius had a slanted windshield, so all I had to do is look straight up, and here's a boulder coming right on top of me, and I pulled the wheel with all my might, and there was a pullout right there. The only one in 20 miles. It was right there. The boulder crashed and rocks flew everywhere. I thought, oh, it's going to destroy this new Prius. Not one rock hit the Prius. I brought the Prius under control and parked about 150 yards down this road. Walked back up. There's this huge boulder broken in dozens and hundreds of pieces, but two main pieces. I picked up a piece about this big. It's now one of my dog's headstones down there. And it weighed 100 pounds. I extrapolated, estimating the weight of the total boulder based on that weighing 100 pounds. I figured it was 4,000 pounds. I'd have just been a little greasy spot on the road if it had come. But that was a miracle. So I'm like the cat that lived 9 lives.
You truly are.
And there's more. There were so many more instances of that. I think I told a few of them in the life story. And the one about the Italian prisoners of
Yeah.
war. And then the bicycle where I was going
Yeah.
around and around. I should have been killed that day.
However, in your book, you didn't make the connection that you made like the last time I was here. You realized that was probably your father because you heard him when you were at his bedside talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. He was. Yeah, I just recently made that connection. You're right. He was on the far side of the bedroom
Put it away.
in his bed. My mom had a bed on this side,
I'll keep a spoon.
and there was a curtain hanging there. And he kept grabbing at the curtain. He said, LaRue, get out of the road. You're going to get slammed by that car. And I said, Daddy, I'm not in the road. I'm here talking to. Get out of the road! So he was foreseeing it, I think. Because that was a miracle. There was no way I could have avoided that car. I was going as fast as you could go on a Hopalong Cassidy Schwinn bicycle. And I was headed right for that car, coming about 95 miles an hour. And instead of, I went over a hump where the culvert made a hump on our driveway, and I sailed. Like every time I'd gone around, I'd made 100 circles. I'd sail clear across to the other side of Val Vista Road, and here she came. There I went. And instead of sailing out, I just went straight up, fell off the bicycle, and it landed on top of me, right on the culvert, the edge of the road.
And you were just watching your dad, making sure he was okay while
Yeah,
everyone else was away, huh?
yeah. It was my turn. We took turns of watching him because he was totally irrational the last probably 3 months of his life. He just, there wasn't enough red blood cells in his system for his brain to work. So he was having, I guess you'd call them nightmares continually. And that was one specifically about me. And he was just sure I was about to get smashed by a car. I've heard his voice. I've heard Mom's voice at least once. It was just before my open heart surgery. And nurses kept coming in, and they had an enclosed place, curtain all the way around where I was in the intensive care, waiting to go in for open heart surgery. And one nurse would come after another, and they'd take blood or check my blood pressure. Finally, I'd hear them each time they'd come in, and I'd open my eyes and see them. And probably 6 nurses. Or maybe it was the same nurse 6 times had come in. And then it was quiet for a minute. And I heard the rustling of the curtain again. They had to pull the curtain. And so I opened my eyes expecting to see a nurse. There's no nurse. But I heard my mother's voice. She said, LaRue, don't go. That was it. That was her whole message. Don't go. And I could see a rustling of the curtain, but I never saw her. But her voice was very distinct. It was unmistakably my mother. And she was telling me not to go. And in the surgery, the surgeon afterwards said, you shouldn't be alive. He came in and talked to me. I woke up 36 hours later, and you had given me a blessing, and you blessed me that I would survive it. He came in and he said, this was Dr. John Stein, good Jewish surgeon. He came in and said, I need to talk to you, Mr. Crockett. I said, about what? He said, about your surgery. He said, when we opened your chest up, they take a saw and they literally saw down clear through your sternum from right there all the way down. He said, we sawed you open. We lay your heart on the left side, on the rib cage, and from the right side, we hook up a heart-lung machine. That's why I like President Russell M. Nelson. He helped invent that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be alive if it weren't for that. And they kept me alive for 5 hours with that heart-lung machine. And he said, but what I want to talk to you about, we set your heart up on the left side, and we saw a lot worse situation than we anticipated. We thought from the pictures that we had taken, which were from this side, we thought, well, we maybe have one bypass to do, and it doesn't look too bad. But he said we couldn't see the left side of your heart. The left side, the whole left ventricle, had shriveled up, turned black, and was dead. He said it was quivering, not beating, just quivering, and he said a little bit of blood was leaking through, but he said scarcely enough to keep you alive. But he said me and the other doctors kind of thought, why do we need to go any further? This is hopeless. And they were debating whether to just put my heart back in there and sew me up or to finish the surgery. And one of them said, well, hey, we're being paid either way. We might as well do a triple bypass because there's some main arteries right there in that ventricle that are obviously clogged, and enough the ventricle has died. And so they did that, worked at it, and it came to the time to try to restart my heart. He said, we didn't have a whole lot of faith that we could even restart it because it's dead tissue. He said one thing about heart tissue, once it dies, it doesn't come back. He said, so that's impossible. He said, but we disconnected the heart-lung machine and did what we're supposed to do, massaged your heart. And he said, it turned pink and filled up with blood. and looked like a normal heart and started beating. He said, that cannot happen. And I started to say, well, my son gave me a priesthood blessing. I think I got the words, my son gave me a priesthood. He said, I don't want to hear it. He says, it's impossible, but it happened. He said, so all I'll say is this, if there is a God, he still has something for you to do. And he said, so get on with it. He turned and walked out.
Well, you certainly have had more things you needed to do before, after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've given hundreds, over 700 patriarchal blessings and hundreds of temple ordinances for ancestors. I don't think it's quite as many as 700, but hundreds. And after that, I've done a lot of things. Being a patriarch and been on the High Council. I've worked with some life and death cases. And, yeah. Well, so anyway, I'm the last person that could complain. Why am I dying so young?
Hmm.